What if I told you that four musicians, plucked from the underground of England's blues and rock scene, built a mighty empire that changed the very DNA of music? Their raw sound shook stadiums to their cores. Songs like Stairway to Heaven became universal hymns for an entire generation. But behind the electric crescendos and guitar masterpieces lay a tale of personal tragedy, toxic indulgence, and a collapse so definitive that the legends themselves would become ghosts. This is the gripping story of Led Zeppelin's meteoric rise to the heavens, and the heartbreaking fall that followed. And before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Stage 1. The formation of a force. The year was 1968. The scene was ablaze with experimentation. Blues met rock, psychedelic tones invaded walls of sound, and the era itself seemed to beckon revolution. Amid frantic changes, one man, Jimmy Page, stood ready to pioneer something the world wasn't prepared for. Page, already revered for his electrifying work with the Yardbirds, found himself at a crossroads. With his former band dissolved, he still needed musicians to fulfill its remaining gigs. But what began as a quest for practicality would morph into something destined to haunt history. Page sought musicians who didn't just play their instruments. They wielded them as weapons. Enter Robert Plant, a vocalist from the West Midlands, natural forces with his voice. His range shot through octaves as if tearing the heavens apart, and Page knew instantly that he had struck gold. But a lead singer wasn't enough for the vision he carried. That's when John Paul Jones walked onto the scene. Classically trained and endlessly versatile, Jones was a bassist, keyboardist, and arranger with ingenuity that could counterbalance Plant's raw energy. And then came the final piece, the unrelenting heartbeat. John Bonham. Known as Bonzo to his peers, Bonham was a drummer whose sheer force rattled bones. His rhythmic power could shake stadiums, a primal ferocity entwined with precision that no other drummer could match. Little did these four musicians know at the time, but standing in that rehearsal room, they weren't just warming up. They were crafting a new epic in music. What began as a makeshift band billed as the New Yardbirds would soon birth something much greater. When Page discussed the group with friends in The Who, drummer Keith Moon quipped that the concept would go down like a lead balloon. The joke stuck, but instead of a lead balloon, this new band soared. They named themselves Led Zeppelin, blending weight with grandeur, destruction with ascension. What happened next would immortalize them, redefining rock forever. But no one, not even Page in his grand ambition, could foresee just how high they would climb. Stage 2, the breakthrough that shook the world. In 1969, an album emerged like a bolt of lightning from the storm clouds of the underground rock scene. Led Zeppelin 1 wasn't just a debut, it was a declaration, a whirlwind of distorted blues riffs, thunderous drum fills, and Robert Plant's otherworldly wails carved a seismic path through the music industry. It wasn't polished, it wasn't refined. It was fire set to tape. And critics? They hated it. They called Led Zeppelin noisy, unoriginal, and even crude, dismissing their sound as reckless chaos. But the fans? They heard something else entirely. What the critics labeled noise, legions of listeners recognized as revolution. Sheer energy of Led Zeppelin's sound burst through speakers, hammering its way into the hearts of millions. The band wasn't just performing music, they were igniting a cultural wildfire. And this was only the beginning. Later that same year, Led Zeppelin 2 arrived, as if Page, Plant, Bonham, and Jones were riding the creative momentum of an unstoppable force. Recorded in fragments while the band toured, each track pushed their artistry to new peaks. This wasn't just an album, it was ammunition. Led Zeppelin wasn't simply honing their skills, they were sharpening their knives. Whole Lotta Love cracked open the gates of blues-based hard rock, fusing monstrous riffs with a raucous sexual energy that felt both primal and transcendent. Fans couldn't get enough. The result was undeniable. Led Zeppelin 2 soared to number 1 on the Billboard charts, dethroning their competitors and cementing their place as rock titan. With the sound of Bonham's relentless drumming, Page's incendiary riffs, Jones's intricate bass lines, and Plant's wails echoing like battle cries, Zeppelin shattered the barriers between blues and hard rock. By 1970, Led Zeppelin wasn't merely releasing music, they were reshaping the industry, defining the sound of the generation. From stereo systems to stadiums, their songs were everywhere, spreading faster than critics could tear them down. Their success wasn't just a breakthrough, it marked nothing less than the arrival of a seismic cultural shift that would ripple for decades. Fans weren't just hungry for Zeppelin, they were ravenous, and Zeppelin was eager to feed the frenzy. Their legend had only just begun. Stage 3. Climactic stardom, the true rock gods. As the 70s unfolded, Led Zeppelin reached a pinnacle most artists can only dream about. Yet no one saw what was coming next. 1971 saw them release their magnum opus, Led Zeppelin 4. The album exploded with masterpieces, Black Dog When the Levee Breaks, and of course, Stairway to Heaven. Arguably the most iconic rock song in history. Many bands created hits, but Zeppelin crafted legends worth their weight in find the boundaries of live music. Their concerts were spiritual experiences featuring blistering 3-hour sets. By 1973, they had become the biggest band in the world, smashing the record previously set by the Beatles by selling out Madison Square Garden in under 4 hours. They were untouchable, unrivaled, and unstoppable. Yet, as the myth grew larger, the cracks began to form. Stage 4. Creative exploration at its peak. In their pursuit of musical immortality, Led Zeppelin ventured deeper into uncharted territory. Albums like Houses of the Holy, 1973, and Physical Graffiti, 1975, showcased their ability to transcend genres. From folk-infused tracks like the Rain Song to epic compositions like Kashmir, they were masters of innovation, building musical landscapes that felt cinematic. Their ability to evolve kept them on top even as the music industry shifted. Zeppelin wasn't just surviving in the mid-70s. They were thriving, leading a genre that many others pivoted to follow. But this creative liftoff came at a cost. Behind the music, the band's indulgence in the rock star lifestyle began to strain their relationships. Excess became the new normal, and for Zeppelin, there was no safety net below the heights they had reached. Stage 5. The revelation of fragility. At their peak, Led Zeppelin was an unstoppable force, a sonic juggernaut that had conquered everything in its path. But beneath the soaring guitar riffs, thunderous rhythm sections, and haunting vocals, dark fissures were beginning to spread. Fame brought its own set of demons, ones that quietly chipped away at the foundation of the band's brotherhood. Excess and indulgence weren't just casual components of their lifestyle. They were becoming corrosive habits that intertwined with their art, often in dangerous ways. Rampant drug use and their growing detachment from reality began to cloud their direction. The unity that had carried them towards meteoric success was under siege. Their battles weren't just internal. The press, ever hungry for scandal, scrutinized their every move. Zeppelin was no stranger to controversy. Tales of relentless partying, destruction of hotel rooms, and near-mythical exploits painted them less as musicians and more as rock and roll archetypes. Overindulgent and larger than life. Robert Plant himself would later reflect on how the band's communication began to disintegrate amidst the chaos. We stopped talking the way we used to. Things we once laughed off became sharp edges. But it wasn't the public scandals nor their indulgent excess that truly tested them. No, the deepest cuts were the private ones, the tragedies that silenced even the loudest band in the world. In 1977, during the band's U.S. tour, Plant faced heartbreak that no fame nor fortune could mend. His 5-year-old son, Karek, succumbed suddenly to a viral infection. The loss engulfed Plant in unspeakable grief, leaving him shattered beyond repair. Music, which had always been his refuge, now felt empty. The entire band fell into shock as their touring plans unraveled. Plant's anguish became a heavy burden for every member, bringing with it doubt and uncertainty about their future. Road fatigue and personal tragedies compounded the already spiraling tension. Led Zeppelin, once a band of united vision, was growing divided. Their earlier camaraderie was now replaced with quieter disputes and mounting frustrations. As the toll grew heavier, so did the sense that something vital was slipping away. What had started as 4 brothers, united by their groundbreaking sound, was beginning to unravel behind closed doors. The cracks were visible now, and everyone, including the band themselves, could see them. The storm was only beginning. Stage 6. The Fall of the Titans. September 25th, 1980. The unthinkable happened. John Bonham, the larger-than-life drummer whose rhythms had powered Zeppelin's thunderous sound, was found dead after consuming an excessive amount of alcohol. Bonham's demise wasn't just tragic, it shattered Led Zeppelin's very foundation. For over a decade, Bonham's furious energy had been their heartbeat, his drumming the relentless pulse driving songs like Rock and Roll and Kashmir. His quick temper and wild charisma were as much a part of their identity as Jimmy Page's searing guitar solos or Robert Plant's ethereal vocals. Losing Bonham meant losing the rhythm that held their world together. The details of his passing stunned the world. In a single day, Zeppelin's fearless drummer moved from being an unstoppable force to a haunting memory. Bonham had been found unresponsive in Jimmy Page's home after reportedly consuming over 40 shots of vodka. The official cause was asphyxiation, choking on his own vomit, a gut punch for any fans who viewed him as indestructible. But what was truly hard to grasp was not just losing Bonham the musician, but Bonham the force of nature, the man who could overpower 70,000 screaming fans with a single drum beat. For the surviving members of Led Zeppelin, the emotional toll was unbearable. Bonham wasn't just a colleague, not just a bandmate. He was a brother. From rundown pubs to sold-out stadiums, they had toured the world together, forging one of the most mesmerizing legacies in rock history. Without him, it was unimaginable to continue. Bonham's larger-than-life personality and ferocity made him practically irreplaceable. In mourning, the band made a decision as monumental as their music itself. Without Bonham, there could be no Zeppelin. On December 4th, 1980, the group officially disbanded, shocking the industry, their fans, and anyone who hoped for a future Zeppelin revival. There was no farewell tour, no final spectacle. What had taken over a decade to build, the mystical kingdom of Led Zeppelin, collapsed overnight. For fans, Zeppelin's sudden demise left an aching void. The rock gods who had once seemed invincible were now gone. The world was left to wrestle with the sheer finality of losing not just Bonham, but the band entirely. Stage 7. Legacy and Fading Glory. Though Led Zeppelin disbanded, their music remained a towering force in rock history. Anthologies sold millions as their influence echoed through subsequent generations. In 2007, they staged an epic reunion concert at London's O2 Arena, with John Bonham's son Jason carrying the torch on drums. It was a fleeting reminder of what was and what would never be again. However, as younger generations embraced new genres, Zeppelin's colossal presence began to fade into historical reverence. They became monuments of a past era, symbols of rock's golden age. To their lifelong fans, they were timeless, but for many, they were only rediscovered through the echoes of their impact. What part of this story leaves you reeling the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales of rock's greatest legends.